Good evening and God bless you, and thank you for joining us on Relationship Matters tonight. I am Melvin, your host, and this is my beautiful wife, Monica. She's our hostess, and we thank God for allowing us to come tonight into your homes and just to engage in talking about relationships. But when we really start dealing with relationships, we can dwell into all different types of areas, but we want to keep it clean, yet we want to keep it biblical, and yet we want to keep it real, because everybody tries to give you the better points of things, but we're going to give you both sides of everything that we give you, because of the fact that we want to be real with you and real with ourselves. So tonight, our topic tonight is you chose me. And I thank God that I chose my wife. I have a lot of reasons, multiple reasons why I chose her, and I believe you have multiple reasons why you chose your spouse via whatever it may have been. I mean, but and we're going to go beyond the surface tonight, because yes, she's beautiful, yes, he's handsome, yes, that's the surface stuff, but getting to know the person underneath that, the inner person, the being inside, because the one that completed you, the one that made you whole. So when we think about that, they say that there's love at first sight in some people's cases, but until you know the person, that's when you really evolved on that. that you're in love with this person. They're your better half. So I understood that when God brought me my wife, he brought me the best thing that I could have, because I chose her. She didn't choose me. Well, I don't know. Well, maybe she chose me too, but we chose one another, and we thank God for allowing us to choose one another. But when I saw her, our first encounter, I said, I talked to her and had a conversation. I said, you can give me a call anytime. And I gave her my business card and just walked away. And she say the story's different than the way I tell it, but she ain't never been the same since. That's all I can say. Amen. God bless y'all for joining us tonight. And we just love on you guys for loving on us, because relationships do matter. I know that we may not be the top gurus on this, but we got 30 years of experience, so this is what works for us. It may not work for you, but we think that if you take kibbles and bits of this and that, it'll work for your better in your relationship. So we want to be encouragers to you on why did you choose your mate. While we're yet here in a pandemic, now is really when the test came, or the test is here, that you really realize why you chose your mate. Some of you can't be in hibernation together because you chose them for one reason, but now that you are in behind four walls 24/7, it's kind of hard to realize, oh, did I choose her or did she choose me? So now is the time for really the true love to come out of why you chose your spouse. Because if you chose them to enlighten your life, they should be enlightening your life right where you are. So all I know is, like, if I'm in a room and my wife comes in the room and she smiles at me, that lights up my world. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel about it. I want my world lit up. So if I'm feeling down or I'm feeling depressed or what have you, I know when she comes in the room and she just smiles at me, it just makes me feel a whole lot better. And see, she over there blushing now, but I'm just telling it like it is, because that's the reason why I chose her. See, I could talk all night and tell you why I chose her, but we're going to let her, jump in and tell me, say why she chose me or what have you, or help someone on how that they choose their spouse. It could just be a small little kiss on the cheek, or a real kiss, what they call a French kiss, and it'll take most of your fears away when you just get a kiss from your spouse. It changes your atmosphere, because when you think about it, I chose her because she completed me. You know, so and I'm thankful that the Lord gave me my wife because she completed me. It was nobody else in the world. It's millions of people in the world. I could have had any woman in the world, but God allowed me to choose Monica. Of all people, she chose Monica to be my wife. So we're going to open up the floor in the forum of why that you chose me. I chose her because she valued me. So when I think about that, you know, that shows me that I had some value. Not that, you know, she was what we call it back in the day, a gold digger or nothing like that. She found value in me, that I had potential, that I had a future. That was value that was placed in me. And that's the same thing that I found in her. There was value, you know, that there was going to be something that we could build on to make it bigger and better, and it ain't over yet. We still got stuff that we got to get to the next level. We're trying to go to the next level because, you know, it's some things that God has for us that's just for us, and we're gonna just keep striving and pushing, trying to get there because she chose me and I chose her. I know I'm doing all the talking tonight, but I'm happy and elated because I chose her. I chose her because she's got a genuine heart. You know, she keeps it real with me, tells me how it is. You know, if she thinks I'm wrong, she'll let me know I'm wrong, even when I don't feel like I want to be told that I'm wrong. But it's honesty, amen. So she over there blushing. I'm gonna let her talk for a little while because, like I said, I can keep going and going.
You're so funny. Why do you choose your mate? How do you choose your mate? And then in order to make sure that you're in the vein that God has called you to be in, I would say the first thing you want to do is pray and ask God to confirm if this is who you're supposed to be with, because 31 years is a long time.
Amen.
And you don't want to just be in it for a couple of days and then jumping around and giving up. So you want to make sure that you seek God and know for sure that this is who God has ordained for you to be with. And then on top of that, you want somebody that can make you smile. My husband is a goofball. And he always has me smiling, always has us laughing about something. And then you want to also make sure that you choose someone that likes you as well. Some of us choose men that don't really want us, and they're just settling. You're a plan B. I didn't want to be plan B. I didn't want to be second fiddle, second choice. I wanted to be the one. And so I'm grateful that my husband, yes, value. I saw value. I saw great potential. I saw God. I saw the anointing when he didn't see it. I saw that there were some things that he would do in his life, and that I needed to be a part of. So I'm grateful that I said yes, and I'm grateful that he still makes me smile after 31 years. And some people are miserable, you know, after 3 months. But I'm grateful that we have a relationship where we don't only tell each other the truth at all times, but we also, you know, we still joke around. We still play. I get excited when he comes home. It's not like, oh my God, and I'm cringing or anything. So I am grateful that our relationship is a true connection, a divine connection from God.
Absolutely, and I also chose her because she's genuine, where her heart lies. She loves God first of all, and that was one of the keys to why I chose her, because she loved the Lord, and with her loving the Lord like that, showed me that she had a genuine heart to believe what the Bible says, and that goes a long way, because when we first chose one another, I wasn't living absolutely the right way that I should be living, but I knew who God was, and when I knew who God was, I understood somebody in the house got to be saved for us to make it through this valley experience. And so she was trying to sway towards the way I was living just a little bit. And she was like, well, I'll go with you and do this, trying to be whole and complete and be together. And I had to put a stop sign there and say, whoa, stop. Somebody in this house got to be saved. And I would tell her, you got to go to church. You got to go to church. If I'm not going, you got to go. And eventually, the Lord dealt with me and got me around to the right page, and look at me now. But I thank God for her genuine heart, that she loved God that much that she was willing to do what it took, that sacrifice to give God all of her heart, because when she gave God all of her heart, I became part of her life, and I became part of that. Gave my heart to the Lord. So I chose her because of her genuine heart. And I'm thankful for that, because it's hard if you got somebody that's fake, that's not going to give you genuine answers, or just going to let you sit out there and rot by yourself. When things get funky, like, deuces, I'm out. No, you want somebody, you want to ride or die, somebody that's going to stay there and stick and stay with you while you're going through the valley experience. Because if you live long enough, my brothers and sisters, you will go into a valley experience some kind of way. Sometimes it's by your own fault, and sometimes it's just part of life. And it happens, and then that's when you know if you really got to ride or die, somebody with a genuine heart that's going to roll with you through this ditch, because what you got some people around you that, what I call them, they're ditch diggers. They'll dig a ditch around just to see if you're going to fall in. And when you fall in, then they say, I wonder what they're going to do now. Is she going to stick with him, or she ain't going to stick with him? So I loved her and chose her because she has a genuine heart. And also, she's talking about, I make her smile all the time. I am kind of goofy, and I just like to make jokes, and if it's funny, I'm going to laugh at it. So I'm thankful that she's able to endure my jokes and endure my laughter, and we make each other laugh. But one of the things that I'm happy about is that she basically makes love effortless. I don't have to work hard at loving her because she loves me back, and that just goes a long way, because when it's effortless, that means you ain't got to do a whole lot of work, early in the marriage, that's when the rough state, the first 3 years, that's when you're working out all of the kinks. And after we worked out most of the kinks and life began to continue on, it start becoming effortless, where we were still do the things that a honeymoon couple would do, but it was kind of effortless. She would plan stuff, then I caught on, like, I'll plan stuff like, we're gonna do this is what we're gonna do, spontaneous things, like we're gonna go and do this. And in the beginning, before I understood this, some things, as a man, I thought, it's stupid. Why are we doing this? But then you start realizing what it's doing. It's building the relationship into a better place, where you're bonding in places that you really wouldn't bond in, So I recall that when you were younger, you would do the school trips where you would go to the museums, you would go to the plays and things of that sort. And that became part of, slightly part of our romance, that, we would just spontaneously put things together. And she said, we're going to go to this play. Or, and so we're going to the play. Okay. And that made love effortless because she enjoyed that. So I began to go with her, and, I say, this is not that bad, So you understand that, there's different kinds of arts, performing arts and things of that sort, that brings you together, because art is love. And when you bring all that together, it builds your relationships, and that makes your love effortless.
And sometimes it's just being together. A lot of times we didn't spend a lot of money in the beginning. Actually, I don't think we had a lot of money to spend, so we would come up with different things. We would go to the drive-in a lot, and we would do things like that. We would plan. Thursdays were our family nights. We were planning that. We would do inexpensive things I remember at our first house, I think we had only 2 bedrooms, and you was like you couldn't get away from each other because everything was so close together. And you know, you go to the basement, and that would be a kind of way you could get away or whatever. But for whatever reason, we didn't use the living room a lot. I don't know why in that house, but anyway, we would, you know, we would do things together. We would do the yard work together. We would wash the cars together. We would sit outside sometimes together. Just different things. We did a lot together. And like I was saying, the house was so small, so it wasn't a lot of spots that you could go without each other anyway. And the kitchen, I don't know why I'm talking about this house, but the kitchen was so small, you could barely be in there with 3 people. So we had this little fold table where we really couldn't even sit in there to eat. But I was just thinking about it. It seemed like we would be together so much because of the size of it, and we would never really have any separate spaces or whatever. So I think in a sense that was good for us because we were used to being together. And then that's what I think couples have to learn to do. They have to learn how to be alone together. Not with the friends, because you know how you date in groups and then you finally get married and you're there alone with him and you're like, oh, I really don't know how to talk to him, or I don't know what to say to him. If you do and spend time and do things together, you'll learn how to be together. You'll learn how to appreciate one another, and you will learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you will just learn who that person is. And yeah, it did take a couple of years for us to really find our groove and to figure out, okay, so you don't clean this way, you clean that way, or you know, this is what you're going to this is how you're going to clean. It took us a little while to get there, and then once we got there, we understood, and then we also, like I said, kind of glean from one another. So if he really's not feeling this particular chore, how about I do this? Or you really would rather do this before you do this, or whatever. We just kind of took the initiative to learn each other and then to kind of stick with it. I think it's so much easier to say divorce, separation, throw in the towel, than it is to stick and stay, than it is to like really fight for your marriage and fight for your spouse. And it's a lot easier to just call it quits or say forget it, and especially because a lot of times you want to do it before they do it to you. So you're like, I'm going to just say this first because of your pride. You don't want to feel like, oh, they got me first, or you know, he got rid of me. And it's just a pride thing. So I think if we took the initiative more to learn one another, that pride would step back, because now you know who this person is, and then you don't necessarily have to feel like they're going to betray you or they're going to do something detrimental to you. And it's just a matter of wanting to be realistic in every situation as well. So I forgot what your question was, but
well, amen. We're talking tonight about why I chose you, or and I chose you because of, you know, and we got a little sidetracked, but that's all right. But I'm gonna answer her question, then we're gonna get back on why I chose you. The reason why we didn't use that living room at that home was because I was that guy that was raised at the front room, the living room. You don't use it for nothing until guests came over. So that's the reason why we didn't use it. I just wanted to know that. The front door didn't open unless we had some company coming over at the front door. But we all used the other parts of the house, amen. But one of the reasons why I chose my beautiful wife is because all I got to do is say, good morning, beautiful, and that just, no, I have, my right hand is right there. And when I tell her that every day, I just like, I'm good. Or when she sends me that text with saying, I love you, and she's got all these hearts and stuff on there, and I'll be like, what's going on? It makes you feel good that you're loved. But I chose you because, and I think she chose me for the same reason. When she does give me a kiss, it sends electricity all up my bones. I think that's why I'll probably do the same to her, because that's why she don't want to kiss me all the time.
You're so goofy.
And here's one right here that's going to help somebody out there. Real talk. I believe I chose my spouse because she's making me a better person. And when I say that, she's making me better as far as whereas I want to better myself. You know, when you have a team, let's put it that way, a team, and you're a team player, you want to do all that you can to make the team better. You know, you don't want to be the one that's pulling the team down. So if you're in a relationship and that spouse is not, you don't encourage that spouse to make themselves better, that means you're not doing something right, because you're trying to pull them down when you need to be helping them and encouraging them, whatever their endeavor is. I mean, if it's a vision, if it's a schooling or a business, whatever it may be, if you encourage them to be better, they will meet their goal, or they will succeed to where they want to go. But if you don't encourage them or want to see them do better, they're never going to do any better. So if you have that spouse that can't seem to find a job, or every time they get a job, they lose a job, you got to be able to encourage them to better themselves and say, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's figure out, what's going on so that we can help, one another, because I want you to do better. I don't want to see you out of a job. I don't want to see you changing jobs all the time. I know that the man try to keep you down. That's what most people say, the man trying to keep me down. It's not the man that's keeping you down. Let's break it down to the lowest common denominator, which is you. So you need your spouse to encourage you so that you could be a better person. And they chose you because they want you to do better. They don't want you to do worse. They want you to do better. So I understand that. That's why you choose the spouse that God has given you. And I chose my spouse because she's perfectly imperfect. She got her flaws. I got my flaws. But we've learned how to live together and work through all of the flaws, and because nobody's perfect. And wasn't but one man perfect, and that was Jesus Christ. And none of us are perfect. So now we have to understand that we're two people living in a world that we chose one another, and now here we are, and neither one of us are perfect, but we got to come to some type of agreement that to be perfectly imperfect together. And so when you think about that, that's an effort or a choice that you make, that she's not this in this area, but I'm not this in this area, but I help her in this area, she helps me in this area. That's going into being perfectly imperfect. So when we deal with things like that, we have to have an understanding that for my relationship to work, and for me to choose the person that's right for me, there's going to be some imperfections that we have to lock together. It's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together, and we got to make it work. When we were little kids, when we take the jigsaw puzzle and try to put it together, if it didn't fit, we take a hammer and try to beat it in there. But we can't beat it in there. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But if it's going to work, there's got to be a way of fixing it to make it work for the better of the relationship.
A lot of times when you first get married, you're learning one another. You're trying to not rock the boat. So in that learning one another, sometimes you are not being yourself. You're not trying to be fake, but at the same time, you're like, I don't know, should I do this? Especially if it's your first time ever being married. I don't know, should I do this? How do I do this? What do I do? And if you didn't have an example, some things you just didn't know. And so there are times in a marriage that you kind of have to navigate and kind of test the waters on different things. But if you want to last and you want to go anywhere in the marriage, you have to learn how to put your guard down. You have to learn how to allow him to see where you're vulnerable. Allow her to see where you're vulnerable. It is so important that that you're comfortable in trusting your spouse. And sometimes things happen in during your marriage where the trust leaves, but you have to be able to say, okay, if I'm going to remain, I have to learn how to trust. I got to regain the trust. I got to show her that I'm worthy of her trust, or show him that I'm worthy of his trust. And it's so important that we comprehend how important it is to let that guard down, to allow them to love you back to whatever you're ailed in, and nurture you back, because a lot of times we tend to have this tough exterior, and don't want to show that bothers me, or that offends me, that, that's not good for me. We always want to be in control and only show the tough exterior when you're hurting in the inside. So if you trust him enough with your heart, you'll let some of that guard down, and then you'll allow him to enter in, and then see where you are vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to add.
Go ahead.
I want to add, that's why I chose my husband, because he allows me to explore different areas. He's not the man that's intimidated by anything that I do or say. He is a man's man. He's like, no, you go ahead. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and try it. Let me see. He'll investigate things for me, and he will open up things for me, and he'll guide me in different ways and direct me. If I say, well, I was thinking about this, he gets behind me and helps me, and goes before me and helps make a path, as opposed to being intimidated or oh no, you can't do that, you don't know enough. Or he always encourages me and trusts me. I had a lot of endeavors in these 31 years, and he always pushed me.
Absolutely. So on that point, that's being a supportive spouse. A lot of times we will choose our spouse because we want somebody that will support us in our endeavors, that will support us in everything that we do. So you can see in the future, he or she will be supportive in that area, and that's a good reason to choose that particular person as your spouse. But going back just a little bit into the perfectly imperfect, and I'm gonna help some brothers tonight, because I've dealt with some brothers in counseling. And they talk about how things don't be in place in the home or what have you. And I found a lot of times they complain about, she don't never put this away, she don't do this, she don't do this, or they complain about, she takes stuff out of the cabinet and she leave it on the counter, and it sits on the counter for days, and this, that, and the other. But what I want to tell you is this: they're perfectly imperfect. So it may be meant that you guys yoked up together for you to put it away, and eventually she'll get around to putting it away if she see every time she looks up you grabbing something, putting it away. But on the flip side, you may leave 10 pair of shoes out all the time, but you think that's cool, but that bothers her because you're perfectly imperfect also. So you have to learn how to compromise in the imperfect because nobody's perfect. Because what happens is while you're doing all the finger pointing, what about all of the areas that you're imperfect in? So that's why it's called marriage. That's because it's a relationship, and it's a spouse, it's a husband and wife, and you complement one another. So she may start the sentence, you may finish it, or you may start it, she'll put the middle part in, you put the end on. So you have to understand that you chose her because she's perfectly imperfect. You chose her because she's going to be a supportive wife. You chose her because of her mind. Well, what are you saying? I'm saying this. Oftentimes men, some of us are book sense, we got good book sense. Some of us got good common sense. Some of us got good street sense. Some of us don't have any sense. But you need that helpmate that's going to have the sense to help and chime in, because her mind, you know how a woman's mind is emotional, and they don't forget anything. They have a photographic memory when things that happened in the past. They can bring it back to you, the color shoes you were wearing, the color socks you're wearing. They probably can tell you the color of underwear you were wearing the brand name, Fruit of the Loom, or whatever it may be. But you need that support from them because of that mind. Most of us chose that spouse because of the mindset that they have. They can help you in areas or think through things. You know, a lot of us men, we like to go into business endeavors where we want to start a business, or we want to do this or do that. And the simplest question we fail to ask, that spouse, that helpmate, that wife will say, well, did you ask this question? You know, and we don't want to be said. We as men, we do not want to be told, "Well, that was stupid. Why didn't you ask that question?" We don't want to hear that. But we have to go home and do pillow talk and hear that, so that we can go back, so that we won't have egg on our face and lose a big investment or what have you. I'm just saying this. I know it's some brother out there that needed that tonight. I chose her because I think of the world of her. She's my all in all. So there's a million reasons why you choose your spouse, and it's just you digging down inside deep to find out, why did I choose her, or why did she choose me, and talk about it.
Sometimes I think that we get afraid to not only let our guard down, but I think sometimes we get afraid to disappoint our spouse. Like when you're having a conversation and maybe you're talking about things that you don't like, or could it change, or anything like that. Sometimes we don't want to disappoint our spouse. So in that, we don't really we don't disclose the fullness of what we're thinking or feeling. And I found in that when you do that, you're jeopardizing your relationship, because telling half of a truth is still a lie. And then how can you build on a lie? So we have to get to the point where, okay, this might hurt, or you might not agree with me, and you have to have that voice. I know a lot of women that don't have a voice in their relationship, and those are the ones that are miserable at home, and they're crying at night and wanting to leave and not wanting to be there. But I'm grateful that we talk about things. I'm grateful that you hear what I'm saying, and I'm grateful that we have learned how to agree to disagree. I'm grateful that we have learned how, just because we don't agree on what type of soda to have doesn't mean that we got to throw the whole dinner away and not eat it all. I'm grateful that we've learned that perseverance is what is needed, especially when you're having any type of situations. Perseverance is what is needed, and then you have to be able to communicate with your spouse in order to get ahead at all. And I chose him because he not only listens, but he hears. And it's a difference in listening and hearing. And I chose him because he has developed in communication. What I mean by that is, we didn't know how to communicate with one another, but we kept going, striving to learn how to communicate. People might say, well, you just open up your mouth and talk, but it's not that simple sometimes. But we developed a way to talk and communicate to one another, and sometimes I don't necessarily have to say it. He can tell, and I'm like, sometimes I'll say, how did you even know? And I just know. And that's communication. Me not having the nonverbal is real communication.
Well, absolutely. And when I chose her, when I think about going back in the beginning of our marriage, I remember some times when she would be praying, and she would pray or whatever, and then she'd say, take me down this street right here. And I would take her down the street. She said, I need to drop something off. Now, we would go to this house, and she would take an envelope and go and put it in the mailbox. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, I just thought it was somebody that she knew. And so eventually I finally said, well, I'm thinking, maybe she had a side thing or something going on, and she's dropping off money to him or something. I'm like, I don't know, a love letter. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. So I finally said, what's this? After about the second or third time, I said, well, what's this? You got the galls to take me with you to do this? I didn't understand it, but then I start seeing, she says, no, the Lord told me that this person who lives here, she said, I don't know him. She said, the person that lives here needs this love token. I'm like, huh? This is the first time I was learning about sowing seed. And she would sow seed because she had one of those giving spirits, and it was a giving spirit, whereas she would give to people who were in need. And when we didn't really need nothing, but we didn't have an abundance of extra. Let's put it that way. And I wasn't understanding it. And then I understood. I chose her because she was undefeatable in her spirit, that if the Lord said to do something, she did it. And I start understanding that, and then God began to deal with me. Now, I'm not saved at this time, trust me, but I understood who God was. And when I understood who God was, I was like, well, we ain't going to stop God's blessings because we got a roof over our head. I got a job to go to. She got a job to go to. Our children are healthy. So why should I, block our blessings by telling her you can't do that no more, And she would drop this off, and I'd be like, wow, that just was amazing to me. And it taught me that she has an undefeatable spirit, that she was going to do what God told her to do, regardless of what anybody else has to say. Now, and I felt good that I wasn't, excuse my vernacular, that I wasn't being, having an off spirit. That's something my bishop would say. I wasn't having an off spirit to block a blessing for my household. By saying you can't leave that seed there, we needed to keep our money. So I said that to say I chose her because she has one of those undefeatable spirits where she knows how to keep on giving.
And I'm grateful that you could have done that because it was technically your money. But I'm grateful that you allowed me to do that, and you would not only allow me to do it, but you would take me and make sure that I was safe, because some of those places were kind of sketchy. But I'm grateful that I have a husband that believed in the God in me, to know that I wasn't just, I guess that would have been something, though, taking my boyfriend money.
I was in the world. I didn't know what to think. I'm thinking like, well, something about to go down. Something's wrong. But then once I found out what it was, I understood that it was a God situation. And then even God, the Bible says that God reigns on the just and the unjust. And here was a just woman married to an unjust man, trying to bless some people that were either just or unjust. So we had to fulfill what the prophecy was, that she had to do what she had to do, and I had to give the money like I was supposed to, and submit to it. And what God did for us was to turn my life around, because I was on my way to hell. I'm being real, I was, with gasoline underwear on. That's where I was headed, because of the things I was doing that wasn't right in the eyes of God. So understand me when I say I chose her because God gave her to me for a reason, because of that undefeatable spirit. And the other reason why I chose her is because she make me feel like the only man in the world.
There are instances when God will give you a plan. God will just show you something that needs to be done, or show you something, and then when you go ahead and do what it is that He's told you to do, you still get permission, ladies, from your spouse. And what I mean by that is, I know God told you to do this, and you know you're ready to move for God, but you still want to go to your spouse and get the okay, because, like I said, this could have went a whole nother way. What if, even if he's not saved, or even if he's saved, let's say your husband's saved, but what if God told you to take that $50 and give it to the Smiths? And then God spoke to him and said to take $50 and give to the Jones. And you guys only have $50. So when you communicate with your spouse, maybe the plan is we do them the 50 this week and then yours the 50 the following week, and everybody is fine. But if you just go and take that $50 out your little drawer that you're saving money in, and that money's gone, then it can cause a problem, and it's something that God told you to do. So why would you want to create a problem in something that God is giving you to do? And why would you want it to end in an argument and you're just trying to bless someone? So that's why you go to your spouse and you talk to your spouse and you make sure that you communicate with your spouse, and then you guys can move forward. There are times when you're not going to agree on certain things, but that's when you compromise. And compromise means, okay, I'm not going to get my way this time. That's okay. Go ahead, take it that, So maybe that person that God told him is going to get their money first. But rest assured, if God told you to do something, he will make provisions for it to be done. But that means you still share it with your spouse. And I chose him because my husband is also very giving. I mean, I don't really think he's ever told me no. He may say, let me pray about it. And then me, well, how long you gonna pray? It's been a while now. Did you hear back from him yet? Because I'm that person that, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. And he is more, I'm going to pray about it. Let's see how God wants us to do it, and we'll get it done. So I'm grateful that my husband is the part of me that I needed, that was to hold me sometimes and say, okay, hold on. Let's see how this goes first. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I chose her because nowadays, here we are in a pandemic and we're in the home, and she's talented enough to watch YouTube videos and things of that sort, and she got all these new crafts nowadays. So I'm grateful that she's talented enough that she uses her hands and these different new machines and stuff, and she's creating all these new trinkets and bracelets, and she got her niche and everything, and it's not cheap looking. It looks good. So I chose her because she's talented. I wish I had those talents.
I think when it comes to talent, I think that if your spouse is encouraging you and pushing you, and you're sometimes doing things and really trying to do it better because of the encouragement, or you want to investigate more because he's backing you and pushing you. And I thank God that, I don't know, some things that he gives me to do, I'm just like, wow, I can't do that. And then my husband is the one that says, yes, you can. You can do it. Did you do this yet? I know you can do it. He will look things up. Now, he says he's not talented. He will look things up for me to try to assist me and to try to help me create something. And, then I run it by him. How does that look? And I don't like that. Let's do it. Maybe you should try this, do this. And he assists me in that, and I'm grateful for that, because then he'll tell me the truth. Yeah. Don't put that in the meal no more. I didn't necessarily like that or whatever. So I'm grateful for that. And when you're choosing a mate, you want somebody that's going to encourage you. You want somebody that's going to push you into your next. Someone that doesn't want to hold you back all the time. Someone that wants you to explore different things and wants you to enhance your knowledge, and someone that is not intimidated either by, you growing and doing new things and getting learning new talents or creating, like what I'm doing today, this year, last year, I would have never thought 15 years ago that I would have even attempted to do some of the things, and that's because he pushes me and he encourages me.
And when as a husband or a spouse, you want to encourage your spouse to do things outside of the box. And when I say that, not doing nothing crazy, but I mean doing stuff that broaden their horizon. So you want somebody really that's full of life, that's willing to do things that the world is offering, but yet keeping it saintly. Where I can do this and still be presentable. I can do this and still have a good time. And these things, when you choose a mate that's willing to do those kind of things, you will step out of your inner box or outside of your box. This past summer we've been doing a lot of bike riding. We rode bikes for years. But we really been doing a lot of bike riding. We ready. I know what's in my spirit. I'm ready to go and start doing some, go in the mountains and ride the bikes. But we ride these bicycles, and we almost like we ain't to the level of being real cyclists, but we're close. So we'll go and do 16, 17 miles at one time. So that's something that's full of life, doing stuff outside of the box. So you can't just stay in one place all the time. We travel as much as possible because as the finances dictate, we'll travel. Because when you were coming up, you used to meet people and that never been out of the state of Michigan. You like, never been out of the state of Michigan? What's wrong? But it was because they couldn't afford it. But now we're living in a day and time where life has changed, and you can broaden your horizon, and it doesn't, in some cases, go to different places. Doesn't cost you a whole lot of money with the way airfare fares are right now.
Yeah.
You can get out of the country. You can do this and that. I know we're in a pandemic, and I'm believing God that He's going to heal the land, and we will be able to get out of the country. But people are still traveling. They're still going and doing what they want to do, and they're taking the precautions along the way. But what I'm saying is that's trying to be full of life, where you'll do things that you don't do on an everyday basis. Like we're gonna go for a bike ride in the mountains, or we're gonna go horseback riding in the mountains, or we're gonna do a bungee jump, or we're gonna do a zip line, and whatever it may be. So they're full of life. They're willing to try something different. Go to an opera. Whatever it may be, something outside of the box. Be full of life, where you're adventurous enough to want to check things out. They used to tease me growing up. They used to always say, when we were in the streets, being real, they used to always say I was the police. I never was the police, but I guess I just carried myself as a police officer, whereas I was very observant. I watched everything. I knew what, that was just my street knowledge. I know where everybody is. I know who's about to do what. Now it's time to leave. I always knew when to leave. Stay out, to keep out of trouble. They used to call me sneaky because I used to be able to see stuff, and then what happened to him? He left. So I wasn't the police, but I just knew. I watched everything that was going on, and I saw that things were about to jump off because I was full of life. I'm like, I want to live and not die. So I'm watching my surroundings. So I chose my spouse because she's intelligent. And you can be intelligent. Watch this. A man or a woman can be intelligent and not have a bunch of letters behind their name. You could be intelligent without having a doctorate degree. You could be intelligent, because most of us that are I'm not going to call us common, but peculiar, have more knowledge than the ones with all of the degrees behind their names. I know y'all not gonna like me about that, but I'm just telling the truth, you know, because most of the people with all those initials behind the name don't have no common sense. Common sense goes a long way.
I'm grateful for my husband, and I chose him because he always sees my potential. He always sees my ability to do something, to enhance it, to improve it. And I also like the fact that he has all of this extra courage in me. You know, he just thinks that I'm going to be able to do something. And I chose my husband because I don't know, I didn't know this, but I know this now, but he always comes up with a resolution. I don't care what the issue might be that might be going on in our home, at the church, or wherever. He always has a resolution. He never just says, oh, well, it'll be all right, or it'll come up. He always has a resolution. He will say, if he says, I'm going to pray, if he says, let me figure that out, let me try to go do this, he will make it happen. I call him the jerry rigger, because if it's something that needs to be fixed, he will get it fixed. I promise you. I'm like, how did you know how to do that? I was just thinking that, you know, if this went this way, this will go this way. So, you know, sometimes he might say, come here, right here, hold this and do this. And I'm like, how did you know how to do that? He's like, I don't know. But I thank God that he's very resourceful, and he always finishes the task. Me, on the other hand, I might procrastinate, but he's that person that wants to get that task finished, and I appreciate that.
And that's funny. She said that I could think of a couple scenarios that I use my resources to try to get through situations, and I could recall one probably 9-10 years ago when I bought my first Mercedes-Benz. And I went to the dealership to get my first oil change, wheel, tires rotated, and this, that, and the other. And I put it in there and waited. They said it'll be about 2 hours. And I sat in the waiting room, and then they came and said, Mr. Jenkins, your car is ready. I said, okay, the cashier's over there. And I went over to the cashier, and it was $400 and something. And I said, sticker shock. And I said, I know this car cost me a lot of money, but I don't think an oil change and rotating the tires and putting the computer on there should cost me that much. So I started doing some digging and started shopping around, and I ended up finding me a mechanic that did it for pennies on the dollar, and that he's a superb mechanic because I improvised. I went and found somebody that was resourceful, that was reliable, had good quality, and so then this made my life easier. And then on the same note, when I would try to become resourceful, one of the elders at the church always tell me, why you always find the good in people? He said, I want to lay hands on them. I say, no, we're not going to lay hands on them. We're going to pray for them, and then we're going to figure out what, we're going to look through the situation and try to figure out the best case scenario. And that's what I try to do in everybody, try to find that in people. But it started at home. I'm always looking for the best in people. Even when the children were growing up, I'm always trying to find their niche, what they're good in, and they took what they knew and ran with it. One of my daughters, she basically was daddy's girl. She could do everything I could do. If I'm out there fooling with the car, she says, I'll go out there with dad and fool with the car. But she don't do that now, but she knows how, because what I was trying to instill in them that, yes, every woman needs a man, a husband, but you could survive without him if you need to. You gotta have some independency. I chose my wife because I felt safe with her from the start. And when I say that, I felt safe that I could rely on her and trust her in every aspect of life. She was my ride or die.
This is a funny show, y'all. I automatically thought of a situation that we were in.
Taking you down memory lane.
a situation we were in, but I guess he probably, I don't know if he knew I had that in me or not, but I basically threatened somebody, like, not to mess with my husband, and I didn't have any weapons or nothing, so I went and got the jack out the car to tell him that I was serious about this. But I'm grateful that we share everything. We share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We share when, I remember our second house, we were in our second home, and I had this job. I had just started this job, and I was so intimidated, I guess, by the training or whatever. And it was all the way in Plymouth. And I think it took a good 30 minutes to get there. I drove home on lunch and was like, I'm not going back. I was so intimidated. I don't really remember what it was, what I was intimidated about. But he said, stop. This is what you're going to do. You can do this. I know you can do this. I went back, I finished the training, and I ended up being there like 6 years and got promoted and all kind of stuff. But I just had a flashback on that he encouraged me so much to stay and not to run from it because I was afraid that I could not do it. And that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be there to encourage you, somebody there's going to support you and push you, motivate you, pick you up when you fall, rub your back when it hurts. You need someone that cares enough about you to put themselves second. And my husband always does that with me, the kids. He always did that. He would always put himself second to whatever we needed, to whatever we wanted. Kids' Christmas, college tuition, whatever it took, he will always put himself second. I even remember he was working 2 jobs at one time and selling hats. So, and trying to make it happen for our family. And that's what I love about him. That's why I chose him.
I chose my spouse because she's patient with me. And when I say she's patient with me, I'm saying, you know, I might have a honey-do list at the house or a list of things she wants done. And she'll say, I'm still waiting on such and such. And I'm like, I'm glad she's patient with me because sometimes when it comes to some of those projects, I'll forget about it or I'll put it on the back burner or I need to do more research because I want to do it at the least expensive price with the best quality. That's just me and everything I do. So if it's a DIY project, I want to know, all right, let me see how to do this, how to do this, and go step by step so I'll know what I'm dealing with so I don't get into the project and have to stop and have to leave the room tore apart or what have you. So I'm thankful that she's patient with me, even in relationship issues. If I done something wrong or I got to deal with an issue, that she's patient with me because sometimes I have to get my one of the words we use at my job, get my head wrapped around it. I got to get my head wrapped around what this situation is so I can really understand how I can get to the best end resolution. Because I want to go the most direct route, but then I don't want to go the wrong route. You know, and that's kind of like even when we go out to do our errands or whatever, I say, where do you want to go? She says, well, I need to go here, I need to go here, I need to go here. I got to map that out in my head and get my head wrapped around it. So I like to run a circle. We're going to go like this. That way you're going to hit every stop. We're going to use the least amount of gas and go the least amount of miles. That's just how I think. You know, that's how I'm programmed. So I'm glad that she's patient with me, that she's willing to understand that, okay, he's thinking through it. He's going to get to the end result. But she is patient with me to wait on the answer. That the answer is coming. It may not come when she wants it, but it's coming. You know, and I kind of do. You know, we have to be patient with the Lord because the Lord hears our prayers. He hears what we want, and we got to be patient David said, I waited patiently on the Lord. We got to be patient with our spouses sometimes. You know, if that man is having a problem in an area, it may take a little while for him to get around to back to home plate to get it right, you know. So you got to pray for him and fast through it, because these kind only come out by fasting and praying. So understand, when you choose your spouse, you're choosing them for reasons that God gave you. You know, I chose her because she loved my heart. You know, no matter what my endeavor is, no matter what I'm dealing with, whatever my vision is, you know, she's got my heart. You know, she knows what I want. You know, and oftentimes in ministry, you will see where the leader has a heart to want to do one thing, but it don't come to fruition as fast as some other ministries. But she knows my heart of what I want to do, and this is the direction that we're going in. So when she waits patiently on what she loves about me, she also loves my heart, that I'm going in the right direction. I love her heart because, you know, when she puts her mind to something, this is going to happen to perfection in that way. You know, and when we have like functions at the church or any of her endeavors, you know, she always wants to be there early. And I always used to say, why we got to be there so early? Well, you put on an event and you want to be there right at the beginning of it. You got to be there early, so make sure everything's perfectly in place. And I'm like, okay, I understand that, but why couldn't we have went the night before and prepped all that? She says, well, some places you have to set the venue up. You know, I'm like, okay, I understand now. But I love her because she's got my heart, and I love her because I got her heart.
And also, I would say to those that are waiting for a spouse to be saved, like he said, fast and pray. But I intentionally did things where I would not just ask God to move, but I wanted to also be that person that was a Christian at home and outside the home. I wasn't coming home being raggedy. And I would anoint everything. He probably swam in oil. I would anoint everything from his socks to his shoes to his toothbrush. I would pour it in the meals. And when I would cook, I would bind the enemy. When I would iron his shirts, because he had to have his shirts iron, and he wanted his starch a certain way, I would pray over those shirts, and I would anoint those shirts, and I would call those things that aren't as though they were. I believe God for his life. I would flip my plate over and fast and tell God that to save him. I would go to shut-ins, and when he went to the altar to be saved, because he started coming to church, I thought it was a joke. You know, I was like, is he trying to trick me? But when he gave his life to God, he surrendered everything. I mean, everything. And I didn't think that salvation would happen like that for him. Like, it's like overnight. And he surrendered everything. And so what I'm saying all of that to say, don't throw your spouse away because he isn't what you think he should be. Or don't throw your spouse away because she doesn't do what you think she should do or how she should do it. Trust God. Pray for them. Love them out of that situation that they're in, and believe God and start speaking to that thing. And I guarantee you, if you trust God long enough, you trust him and you tell him that this is what is needed, God will come through for you every time. And I'm grateful for my spouse being that man that is steadfast.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for God allowing us to choose him, to have a relationship with him. And I thank God that he gave me this lovely woman that had a relationship with God, and then introduced me back to you, Jesus, that you became a relationship and made our relationship bigger and better than it has ever been. We've been together almost 31 years, over half of both of our lives, and we thank God for that. And I thank God for the model that you put before me. My mom and dad, God rest their souls, they were married for 32 years till my dad went home to be with the Lord. So I thank God for that, and I'm believing God that we're going to surpass that, because we're younger and stronger, and we're going to make it a long way, because God allowed me to have this beautiful woman. He allowed me to choose this beautiful woman because when look at her, she's looking in my eyes now. Just, Lord have mercy. Doing something to me. So God bless you tonight here on Relationship Matters. First Lady Jenkins is doing a lot of blessing tonight. Y'all pray for her. We love her. Amen. And we're going to let her have final remarks tonight in the name of Jesus.
Well, we thank you for joining us this evening, and we really want you to know that whatever it is that you're going through, if you trust God and give it to Him, He will guide and direct your path. Lean not to your own understanding. Acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct it for you. So I just want to say in closing, whatever it is, don't think that it's too hard for God, because nothing is too hard for God. So we thank you for joining us this evening. We hope and pray that you got something out of it, and that you'll come back and see us again on the following Tuesday at 6 o'clock. God bless you. We love you.
Always choose your spouse.
Elegant Affairs offers custom clothing, including denim jackets, masks, and other unique designs. We offer fashion jewelry, bags, and accessories. We also offer event planning. Reach out to us at 734-558-6236 or reach us on Facebook at Elegant Affairs. Elegant Affairs, when it is time to shine.
Thank you for joining Relationship Matters. Catch us again next Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Worship Radio International as we continue to enlighten you about strength in relationships. For all questions, please email us at relationshipmatters99@gmail.com. Again, that's relationshipmatters99@gmail.com. If you would like to sow a seed into the ministry, there's 2 ways that you can do that. Through Cash App, $GSD Ministries, again, $GSD Ministries, or go to our website at GreaterShilohDeliveranceMinistries.com. Thank you.